This is a National Blinded Veterans Organization video.
We are having a guest tonight, Blake Suffering, and his partner, Peter. What's your last name, Peter?
Glazer.
Glazer, okay. All right, and I do ask that everyone that is on right now, that when the speakers are on, would you please mute your mic so that we don't have any interruptions? If you have a question for either one of the speakers that are coming on, please raise your hand. Ray will be recognizing your hand and calling up on you. Is that okay, Ray?
You got it.
Okay. Again, I thank you all for again. My name is David King, by the way. I never introduced myself, but I am your host of the NBVO, and I look forward to having you all come on again and again and again and again. So thank you all for coming. With no hesitation, we're going to go right into our presentation and give Blake and Peter an opportunity to share with you the things. That's why I didn't spill the bean, but a lot of conversation was going on about this incident or this activity called rowing. So I'm gonna let these guys take over from here. You guys are in control from this point on, okay?
Awesome, thank you. Pretty excited to be here and be a part of this group. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
All right. Great.
All right, and Blake's sharing some slides that we made. I think the visual aid helps a little bit. You can go ahead and switch to the next one, Blake, whenever you're ready.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna try to get this to the right one.
While he's setting that up, just a little bit of background on us. The two of us met in the Special Forces qualification course, probably about the midway point of our Army careers. And have, essentially stayed friends ever since. We had a lot in common, and got out of the military about the same time. And we started this nonprofit. Essentially, it started as a couple of guys wanting to do something epic. I had learned about the sport of ocean rowing while I was on vacation in the Caribbean with my wife. And essentially, when I saw the boats, I had never seen anything like them, and it just happened to be in the right place at the right time to meet teams that had come across the finish line. So we signed up to try to do this. The whole thing has now morphed into a nonprofit really designed to support veterans as they transition into the next phase of life. That's a big piece of what we've gotten out of it thus far, and frankly, that's what we're most excited about, is now getting involved with other nonprofits such as yourself, and working with our local communities and getting people together. And ultimately our goal is to do the same thing, but actually on the water with boats, and let veterans come out and find a little therapy and solace in nature and community and camaraderie. So that's kind of the intro pitch that I snapped together while we were getting our slides ready. So let's rip through these real quick.
Pete, does that look right?
Yeah, that's good enough. You can just switch to the next one.
Okay.
It didn't switch.
Oh.
Is
that right?
Yep. So this slide is just highlights the purpose, mission, team values. Really, I mentioned that we aim to provide a therapeutic program that harnesses the power of nature and physical activity, really for our veterans, our nation's servants, first responders, et cetera, that are dealing with PTSD or other service-related disabilities. And we want to empower veterans and first responders as to ensure that they thrive in their life's next chapter. And we understand that there's a lot of organizations out there that help veterans, and we just find ours to be a little unique in that it's around the sport of ocean rowing. Next slide. You've already met Blake and myself. We are the co-founders of this team, but we have two fantastic NCOs, one that's retired and one that's in his retirement process right now. Both with a ton of experience downrange, great guys, and then a coach who's a combat wounded Marine. He's done the race on the Atlantic. He helps us out from a kind of coaching and logistics standpoint. And then, yeah, this is kind of the last slide I'll cover before I hand it over to Blake. But bottom line, the reason that we got to where we are today is that we started transitioning out of the military and realized that that transition process is a lot harder than even we expected. You know, we all talk about the difficulties around big life transitions, but leaving the military for the civilian workforce would really hit all of us like a ton of bricks. And so we want to help veterans in that phase of their life and get through that. And then additionally, we have a term on the slide that says operator syndrome, which is a medical diagnosis that's relatively new, but becoming more common in medical vernacular. And essentially, it's the health implications of chronic stress over prolonged periods of time, and then also being exposed to not just like big blasts, but micro blasts. So think every time you pull the trigger of a rifle when you're inside of a building, that has a negative impact on your brain, which creates long-term negative health impacts. So these are two problems that we aim to address in our program as we bring people into row. We'll also be inviting them into a family where we assist with pointing them to the resources that are out there to get through transition, but also to treat any of the health conditions that they've incurred over the course of their service. Our saying is row your ocean. That's kind of our mantra. And we're motivated by empowering veterans and leading from the front, providing a service that is frankly kind of hard to find out there when you're out. And then we'd like to create a legacy that's essentially a family. And we have a quote here that says, "No man is an island." Ultimately, being present for veterans versus, putting them in the queue like many veterans are used to as they're going through their VA processes, et cetera. Hope that clears it up a little bit. After this one, I'm going to pass it over to Blake, but happy to answer any questions if y'all have any.
Okay, we'll keep moving on. So Pete and I really have a heart for people that are transitioning. We've had a lot of friends who've taken their lives, unfortunately, either shortly after getting out of the service or sometime thereafter. We've also seen some families kind of fall apart because people are used to a sense of community and a mission in their life, especially with the last 20 years being at war. When they step away from uniform service, they're really lost and challenging. So the solutions that we bring is not just about ocean rowing. It's a much more holistic program. And it's also, we believe in an engagement that takes a long period of time. So rather than like a singular golf outing or a really cool hunting trip or something that really only lasts a weekend, while we see that as really impactful and powerful, it's really just a Band-Aid for some struggles that some people are having psychologically. And so we have kind of a 4-step process here. One is nature therapy and mindfulness, just being out on the water and experiencing the healing power of nature, feeling all of the senses simultaneously. There's something really special about being on the water. I'm sure all of that resonates with all of you. But it's great too to just be on this boat and feel like you're a part of a team, which really brings to the second thing. A rowboat can't move without everybody being synchronized. And even for blind or people who are challenged with their vision, you can synchronize on this boat very easily using a couple different methodologies, which is why we're really excited about talking with people in your community and understanding some of the issues that people with vision challenges struggle with. But you're working together as a team and you can feel that synchronization, that synergy while you're on the boat. And there's something really, really special about that. Add into there that it's physically kind of challenging. And then you've got music playing. It's just a really incredible feeling, especially when you have your wind at the back. The other thing that we're doing for these veterans that are getting out is helping them with professional support. Everybody's got a different road. Everybody is incredibly unique. And that's the way that they've been made by God. And we believe that there's not a singular path for transition out of the military. For some people, working on a factory floor and using your hands and machining every day is a life well lived and a really healthy environment, professionally speaking. For some people, working in high finance and solving private equity deals is a really satisfying professional life. And then for some people, some people are interested in being farmers And so what Pete and I and the rest of our team have been working really hard to do is to build a network of mentors, people that are successful in the professional, in the commercial world, who can come alongside and see the value that these veterans have and give them really great feedback, help them prepare for meetings, help them prepare with their resume, and help them get in the door for that initial interview, and then help them be successful as they make career steps. And then the last thing, you know, after guys get on the boat and they have these incredible rowing experiences, we want to bring them in as mentors, because we want them to feel like not only they're part of the community, but they're contributing to the community and they're helping people grow and continue to transition out of the military. And that's something we're really passionate about. It's like we're not interested in short-term relationships. We're interested in long-term, deep connections. And we realize that we can't service a ton of people doing that. But the people that we do serve are going to have really special, impactful, life-changing experiences and relationships. So really where it goes, right, in the future vision is we're putting a lot of veterans on this boat, and it can be for like 3 hours, or these veterans can be preparing for months at a time just to do an expedition that lasts 3 days, where they row from the port of Charleston, South Carolina, to the port of Savannah, Georgia. That's a 3-day row on a boat, and that's an incredible experience. You do approximately 50 miles a day with the wind at your back on one of the boats that we have. And what that does is it creates greater mental fortitude, shows people that they have this, you know, they were created to be servants and they can continue to serve. Increase social engagement, that's helping these guys regain a sense of purpose. And then when we bring them into our nonprofit, we also want to teach them about lifelong skills, how to manage a P&L statement, how to have executive communications. And our vision is that we have people within the Corsa racing community that are having initial conversations with people like David King, right? And they're getting these incredible experiences meeting people from a completely different background and building bridges and connections. And all of those things can then be translated directly to their resume as they're getting out, because they can say, hey, I've done development opportunities with a nonprofit, I've ran fundraisers, I've done a marketing program, managed a P&L, and then I've also put together some community events. And those are all really different things than what veterans do while they're in the military. Okay, so our short-term objective is we're going to be fielding this first team to row across the Pacific Ocean in June of 2025. That's going to take approximately 35 days. And we have a couple reasons as to why we're doing it. One, we want to inspire others and show people that, hey, veterans are the best that society has to offer in a lot of ways. We're really passionate about changing the veteran narrative away from, hey, veterans can be, you know, kind of difficult to get along with, or maybe they're a drain on society in some aspects. So we want to completely shift that narrative away. And we've been working with the state of South Carolina to do that, where it's like, we want to show that the veterans that are in our communities were leaders while in uniform service, and they're still incredible leaders and incredible family members within their communities. We want to raise awareness about the seriousness of transition and how challenging it can be to walk away from uniform service. And then we also want to honor our fallen comrades. In the long term, we want to, this is a really audacious goal, okay? But in the long term, and in 3 years, we want to have a balance sheet that's approximately around $300,000. We want to have 2 of these boats in our possession. We want to have a physical footprint in Charleston, South Carolina. And we want to host teams of veterans from all over the country and eventually all over the world to come to Charleston, South Carolina, to have really incredible weekend experiences and training iterations where we put them up on the beach in an Airbnb that's been donated, take them out to dinner, treat them like kings, get some training iterations in, and then ultimately put them on a boat for an expedition. Ideally, we're doing 10 to 12 of these expeditions a year. The expeditions would be these 3-day long expeditions across the Gulf of Mexico or along the Atlantic coast. And these veterans that sign up for it are the expectation is that they're raising money while they're preparing for their expedition. And the funds that they raise, they are able to donate to a third-party charity of their choosing. So really what we're talking about is veterans finding new ways to serve. My heart goes out to victims of domestic abuse. I grew up in an abusive home. So what initially we wanted to do when we were crossing the ocean was donate all of the proceeds that we raised to the National Children's Alliance. And in the future, we hope to build partnerships like that where we can donate large sums of money because veterans got on this boat and they rowed and they did something amazing. Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions before we talk about the race in 2025. Does anybody have any questions so far? Brian, I see you got your hand up on the thing.
Hey, Blake. I got a comment and I had a couple of questions, but you answered one of my questions.
Okay.
I'm immersed in kayaking, and like you said, there is a great healing in water because you have no control and it's literally peaceful on water.
Mhm.
The first question I had, you pretty much answered because I was stationed on Oahu. So I know from LA to Oahu is about 5 or 6 hours, but you already answered that question. It's going to be 35 days for that
Yes,
trip.
sir. Yes, sir.
But
Yeah.
the second question that I had was how many people will be on the ship and how will they be accommodated, sir?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. Thank you for asking that, Brian. The boat is outfitted to sustain 5 people. We will be rowing with 4 people across the ocean on this initial iteration. You can row this boat with 5 people. There are teams that row with just 1 person. So they do singles, doubles, triples, quadruples, and quintuples, so 5. We are going to do a 4-man team. And then as far as berthing goes, there's a cabin in the front that's big enough for about 1 large person, and there's a cabin in the stern in the back that's big enough for another person. It's kind of like, if you can imagine, I was never in the Navy. I was in the Army, but it's very similar to being in a fighting position, like a hole in the ground just large enough to fit your body in. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
This
Yeah,
is Keith
this is
Helsley.
Kelly Reamer.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to. What kind of, is there, like, what do you guys use for navigation? Did you already say that, or did I miss it? Or is there
did.
electronics on the boat, or?
I didn't. Yeah, I'll show you the electronics here in a second. For navigation, we are using primarily GPS. The GPS is routed through a Garmin chart plotter, like what you would see on a commercial vessel. And then we've actually begun a relationship with SC Quantum. I have a meeting with them next week, which is the South Carolina quantum computing element that's been funded by the state government. And what they're looking to do is use quantum computing to help us to refine our navigational inputs based on weather, wind, rain, current, and believe it or not, the temperature, which really affects how the boat moves in the water. So we'll be using a chart plotter. We'll be looking really heavily, Kelly, at the wind. The wind plays a huge role. It's much less current and it's much more wind on this boat because we're only capable of rowing at a speed between 4 and 5 knots, and the boat sits about 4.5 to 5 feet above the water line. It acts as a sail almost. And so you're really constrained by the direction of the wind, and that's why you have to you have to row in the trade winds from Northern California to Hawaii. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes,
I
sir.
like to tell people that our little rowboat is outfitted with basically all of the instruments that you'd find in a sailboat that would make the same trip. So it's got numerous, and Blake will go into more details, I think, but the race itself requires the most redundant comms package I've ever seen. Like, we have to have 3 satellite phones. We have a Garmin chart plotter. We'll have handheld Garmin plotters. We'll have them on our watch. You have to understand how to navigate without them. It's a pretty robust communications and navigation package. And then same with you can set an azimuth and lock in the tiller. So the boat will use GPS to keep you on an azimuth, so you're not constantly steering. So really, most of the day you are literally just rowing on and off, outside of your daily maintenance, restroom, eating, cleaning, etc.
Got it. Thank you.
And we'll also have a satellite phone package so that we can communicate with our families and keep them up to date. There's go ahead. And I think Keith was going to say something as well. Terry and Keith, were you guys going to say something?
This is Keith. First of all, I had a remark directed towards Brian. He made the comment that he was immersed in kayaking. I want to tell him, you got to flip yourself over to be on top of the water. That's a joke. The other thing is, you mentioned transitioning from military to, I guess, corporate life, you would say. That people have leadership ability. What kind of things do you do? For example, someone's in the military, maybe they're infantry, maybe they're E5, E6, they got leadership, NCO skills. How would you translate something like that to make a corporate person say, hey, this guy's just not someone to pull a trigger, he's actually got something going on?
I love that question. Because that's kind of
great question.
I was an infantry officer as well, like Blake, and to be honest, I felt kind of advantaged when it came to like my resume getting out, and it was still very hard. So I work with a lot of my former NCOs on getting out of the military, and the first thing I always tell them is, I don't care how confident you are in your plan and how you'll handle it. It's a lot harder than you think. So mentally be prepared, and physically, don't give up on yourself when you get out, because I think staying physically active helps people a lot. But in terms of translating the resume, Blake and I have formal training from a guy named Rick Van Arnhem that worked with an author called Patrick Lencioni. Long story short is, we've kind of got some formal training in organizational health, and then also have gone through numerous kind of transition programs. To Deloitte Corps is one Blake did, and we've been run through these. I mean, numerous different organizations, Special Operations Transition Foundation, et cetera. So we would take that person that you mentioned and start with the resume, and start with, and basically help that person write their resume, pass it through our resources, make sure it's tailored to the job they want. But also the big thing is figuring out, opening the aperture on what's available out there. And we just have I don't want to take up too much time, but we have a massive amount of resources when it comes to that aspect of transitioning out. I mean, we were on a podcast just last night, or Tuesday night, sorry, with a gentleman that does exactly what you mentioned. He takes somebody getting out of the military and places them in companies based off the relationships that they build with companies. So tons of resources out there for folks. The challenge is getting them to find us, or getting them to find those resources. If you just go through TAPS on base and kind of get out, move back home and find a job, you're missing out on a lot of the resources that are available. So, one of the biggest missions we have is just being more open and gaining a larger follower base, and trying to get in front of as many people as you can, because a personalized transition coach is not really, I mean, I did not find one of those, and that's what we're.
Well, I wish 40 years ago,
yeah,
or 25 years ago, when I actually exited the military, it would have been nice to have somebody like what you're describing to say, oh yeah, here's what you should do. As a mid-level NCO, you got a fair amount of management skills, despite your actual occupation. But then if you go to like a trade, they're more concerned about, do you know welding or mechanics? If you go to an office, they want to know, what's your degree in? It's like, well, duh, I'm an NCO, I don't have a degree.
Yeah. Or it's, hey, I want you to, even if you have 5 degrees, but how much of an Excel expert are you? And so I found that today, the best resources for job placement that we have as veterans there are a lot of people out there that's all they do now. And, Jim Lopes, I'm thinking of Blake. There's a lot of groups out there that we have, like a collated database of like every veteran resource we could find pertaining to transitioning out of the military. And we kind of just maintain that, and everybody in our circle will have access to that and access to us. And
Another big part of this, Keith, to answer your question, there's two parts, right? I'm very passionate about mental health and having that conversation with guys, because I think we've had, we're sitting in a place where we've just finished 20 years of warfare. All of the guys on our team are pretty seasoned as far as it comes to combat. And so we can use our experiences to like really lean in and breathe some truth into these guys and girls that are getting out and say, hey, listen, you had things happen to you either before or during or after when you got out of the military that you need to address, if that's the case, right? Some people really struggle with childhood trauma, things that they've dealt with. So that's like a really big part of what we're doing before we even talk about transitioning to the military. And then the second thing is we ask them 3 questions, right? So, or we ask them, please rank these things for me. How important is the role? How important is the industry? How important is the location? And how important is your family life, right? And then you'll be surprised. Some people only really care about the role. Some people only really care about the location. And then once I have those things ordered in rank, that's when we can really put together a really solid plan for placement and helping them find a really good fit for that first job out of transition. So
channels through 16.
hopefully that helps.
This is Terry Helsley.
Hey, sir.
Keith's brother. I have a couple things. One was, how many trips have you rowed across the ocean? Was one, and the second was, have you ever ran across Gilligan or the skipper?
So Pete and I, Pete, Chris, JT, and myself have not rowed across an ocean yet. This will be our first ocean crossing in June. We've spent a lot of time on the boat. We're pretty good with the systems and rowing at scale, but yeah, we're not there yet. We haven't actually crossed an ocean yet.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling us out, Terry. Gosh.
Great job, Terry.
Yeah.
Hey, Tron Richardson, I have a couple of course. I actually want to make a statement first. When you were talking about transition from the military to the civilian life, and you were saying training those soldiers in order to go into either industry or, well, I should say industry. Do you use sort of like an adaptive type of program where you look at, let's say, for instance, you were infantry officer, and as an officer, you were in charge of several individuals, which means you have leadership skills. But it also means, too, that there are certain skill sets within the infantry program that you have to accomplish. So do you take those skills and transfer them from the military skills to civilian skills based upon your program? That's what I think I'm hearing you saying.
Yes, sir. So something that Pete really, my partner, really pushed for and kind of built a pipeline for is the project manager certification. There's a lot of opportunities to get a PMP when you get out of the military, and for you to also get a CPA in accounting. And so that's like a really great starting place if somebody wants to continue to be a leader after getting out of the service, as an NCO or as an officer. But then we also see some veterans who are like, hey man, I've been really doing my best to be a leader. I think this next chapter of my life, I want to step away from some of the things I was doing, and I would like to be an individual contributor who is a coder for computers, for computer programming. And so we kind of just have to ask the questions first. But to answer your question succinctly, if someone wants to continue to do leadership, we'll push them into a project management and a public accounting course, which will help them to just have a really great certification on their resume.
Okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
And also, to again, short answer is yes. Everybody, what we're trying to pride ourselves on is it's not just like a program that you sign up for and you go through the steps. It's like it's essentially like right now there's only 4 of us, but we are 4 coaches to help somebody figure out what do they bring to the table, what do they want to do when they grow up, and all of those questions that people struggle with. And generally speaking, I find that veterans have an idea but I'm constantly helping, you know, my infantry NCOs that are getting out, walking them through just basic terminology on what you have actually done, just using civilian terms. And so we help them with all that stuff. And really the idea is we have so many resources through family, friends, and what we've done that you take anybody. I mean, I don't care what their MOS is, what branch, and they could come and say, I have absolutely no idea what I want to do, but I know I'm supposed to get a job. And we can help them get to that finish line by either just with us or all of these different organizations and platforms that we know about and have connections with.
Yeah,
It's kind of like the world is your oyster, and it's hard to brief because it's not a process per se. It's like individualized to the person because everybody's going to have a different experience. Like if you have an E6 who's a, you know, infantry guy versus an O6 who is acquisitions, it's totally different challenges as they get out and try to figure out the next move.
Yeah, okay, that can answer. And then the second question I had was, what happened when you have inclement weather on the ocean? Because we all know that the ocean is unpredictable. You say you're going in June. Was that a specific time frame that you decide to cross, you know, and go across the ocean for these 35 days you were talking about?
They planned the Pacific race and the Atlantic race in time frames that are historically the best time to cross based off of the direction of the wind and how bad the weather is. But it certainly can happen. And you kind of just have to hunker down. There's something called a para anchor that you can, it's essentially an underwater parachute. So like Blake was saying earlier, when the wind's blowing against you, there's not much you can do. So you essentially just drift, but put that para anchor in so you don't go backwards too far. And then the boat itself, they're required to be built in a manner that they self-right if they roll over. So it's pretty common for the boats to roll over with a rogue wave or what have you, but they will row back over immediately. And if not, then you're, you know, executing emergency procedures that involve deploying a life raft and keying up 17 different types of communication platforms that are required of the race. But generally speaking, it's incredibly safe. I mean, they have like a 99% success rate of teams that attempt this. And typically the teams that don't finish get severe seasickness, and we're not prepared for that or something like that. It's typically not weather. It's kind of just you hunker down and wait for it to end.
I was going to say seasickness depend on the person's body structure, which is unpredictable. I should say that it would depend on each individual as opposed to getting sick. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've had the opportunity of going overseas in the LST, and anyone in the Navy know what the LST is, and that's a rock in this boat in the ocean, as far as I know.
Yeah, we've never had that
flat
experience.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I'll kind of keep going here unless anybody has any more questions. We're almost done with the presentation, but I'll kind of describe the boat. So we're looking at a picture of the boat right now. At the top of the screen, you'll see the kind of the stern, and that's the first cabin. And then on the bow, there's another cabin. We've got solar panels on the front and on the back that power all the navigation systems, as well as the water maker. So we have a machine on this boat that will transfer salt water into fresh water at a pretty incredible rate. It'll do about 40 gallons a day. And then we'll carry approximately 5 million calories on the boat to cross the ocean. And the food will be dry, like camp food that you would boil in water. You can see that the deck is probably 12 inches off the water. So it's pretty close to the water. And then you have the rowing positions where the seat slides and your feet stay in the same location. The weight of our current boat is actually 700 pounds dry. It's a mixture of fiberglass and carbon fiber. It's 32 feet long, and it has a 5.5 foot beam. And then we already talked about the communications equipment. Currently, right now, we have approximately $25,000 of capital deployed into the boat. And we're continuing to build out our fund so that we have enough overhead to be able to pay for people to travel and those kinds of things. But I won't get into the numbers.
We all know how fundraising goes.
Yeah, fundraising's. I'm sure I have a lot to learn from David. So we established the nonprofit in June of 2023. We established ourselves as a 501c3 with the federal government in July, and then started fundraising in August. We've been fairly successful. We've done a bunch of events, and we've raised approximately $35,000. But we're continuing to work on that, and we've got some great partners right now that are just small businesses across the United States. So that's pretty much all I have about Corsa racing. I'd love to hear if anybody else has any questions or.
I do want to add one thing real quick, Blake, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Why we're here, why we're here talking to y'all. So we see, one of our teammates has interacted with y'all in with your organization in out where he lives in Midland, Texas. But we've been kind of discussing the opportunity of outfitting our boat in an adaptive manner to accommodate, those with limited visibility or what have you. And I think that could be a partnership where, as a team, we could solve that problem. And I'm sure there's somebody within the community that would be interested in doing it. In fact, that's where the conversation started. It was one of JT's good friends who does have limited vision. I think he's totally blind, and he wants to row across the ocean. So we wanted to meet with you all today, mainly to tell you who we are and thank you for what you're doing, but at the same time, kind of, throw it out there. It might be a little bit audacious idea, but I think anything is possible if you set your mind to it. It could be fun.
Awesome. Any other questions anyone have? Well, I think it's a very exciting.
I have a question, Dave. I'm sorry.
Okay, Brian.
Okay, Blake, I have a question because you put up a screen share, but I'm totally blind. So the question that I have is it like a creek boat? Is like a round bottom boat, or is it like a slicing boat through the water?
Okay, I'm going to paint a picture to the best of my ability. It looks like a missile on the front, and it looks like a missile on the back. And imagine if that missile was sitting in the water and it was pointed on both sides, and then in the middle, it was cut out in open air, and the deck was like maybe 12 inches off the water.
Okay,
is that
so
a
more
good
like
description?
a creek boat. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. If I like to describe it as an oversized canoe with a cap on the front and a cap on the back.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to, just continue the conversation. And as you guys continue to interact with other blinded veterans in your community, share the word. And if you run into any young, or, people that are transitioning or have already transitioned that you think could benefit from us, please, encourage them to reach out. And, or if you think that somebody would be interested in getting on the boat and having an experience, we'd love to host and just have, learn about the challenges that you guys face. I think that would be very enlightening and eye-opening for us. So I think it'd be great on both sides.
This is Terry.
Hey, Terry.
So like when you're going across, you have your crew and you have 4 people going. So you'd have 2 people rowing and the other 2 are sleeping, taking the time off, and they go in shifts. That's how it works.
Yes, sir. It's 2-hour shifts. So 2 hours on, and then 2 hours on the oars. And then after your 2-hour mark, that's when you'll get off the oars. You'll use the restroom, conduct hygiene, feed yourself, and then you go right to sleep for about an hour and a half. And then you get back on the oars.
For my Army folks, it's a lot like living in a patrol base, to be honest with you.
Apparently we lost some people. Participants. Everyone's still on? Everyone back on?
Yeah, I got kicked out for some reason. I don't know.
I don't know either. I got kicked out. All of us got kicked out.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole board went blank. Blake, are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Sorry about the technical. We don't know. That's the first time that's ever happened to us. So you were completing a statement that you were making before we got cut out.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying, but just I'd love to connect with whoever is interested in coming down to Charleston. And I'd like to see where this goes, even if it's only for a morning or something, putting a team together to come down here.
Right. I sure do thank you for, you've pretty much explained, you did post up on the recording from earlier, the information of contacting you guys.
Yes, sir.
You
Yep.
did. Yeah. And I apologize again because I don't know what happened to our connection. Most of us was out of the room for a while. Monica, you still here with us?
Yes, I'm still here. I came back on.
Thank you, thank you. As soon as we get the power back up, wasn't the power from the device that I'm using. I think our internet just went out here where I'm at. So I may be to blame in where I'm at. So next week, when we come back on, we'll be back in full location where I don't run out of power, where we don't run out of internet. So I'm in a BRC and I just want to blame it on the BRC and not me. So, so I really think the guest, Peter, as well as Blake, who came on to explain it, when you go to your when you go to our webpage, you will see this recording. Terry and Keith will edit those things that necessarily don't need to be in there, which is the beginning. We want to stick to the presentation and what was presented. These guys did an awesome job in presenting what they were talking about. I've learned a lot here. 35 days?
Yeah, it scares me too.
35 days underwater? What?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long, I mean, by that time you about worked up some good muscles. You should be stronger than an ox by the time you get off that ocean, right?
I hope. We'll see.
Good workout. Wow.
It
Okay.
also worked up a good appetite too.
Of course. I'm hungry.
Yes, sir.
I'm hungry thinking about it.
yeah. What's the kitchen like?
The kitchen is a pot that I boil water in and I dump oatmeal in.
All
It's gonna be
right.
pretty terrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that like MREs?
Yeah, it's like worse.
Oh my goodness.
Is that
Worse.
possible?
Well, in
Yeah.
that case, I thought sea rats was the worst type of food you could eat. So if that's worse than sea rats, then I'm in bad shape.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I appreciate you guys. The questions that were asked are wonderful questions. But we are going to retain you guys for more information later on. Any update that necessarily needs to be brought up, we hope you guys will be available for us again. We definitely want to promote this and make sure that other veterans have an opportunity to be a part of that. And I like the fundraising part. It's always good to raise money for a good cause. And so rowing is a good way to do so. What a great idea you guys came up with. We hope to be instrumental with you guys along on this journey. I don't know how many of you guys on board, how many of you participants on board here would like to go rowing. I would think several of you would. How about that, Mr. Jerome and Monica? And
Yes, absolutely. I know I'm interested.
yes, Brian, I know you are.
Yeah. In fact, I'll even take my fishing
If my
pole.
schedule permits, sir, I am down for it. I've never did it before.
Yeah, I've never done it before either. So this
Terry's going to take his water skis.
I can't row that fast.
Who said they were bringing a fishing pole with them? There.
It's Brian.
I don't
I'll
think
bring
you
a
have
fish.
time to fish.
Pardon me?
I don't think you're going to have time to fish if you're roaring.
Oh, you can fit. You can. Somebody can fish. You're just not a good rowing partner.
So we'd have to bring our own food, lunch, or bag, or something, wouldn't we?
No, sir. I would. What I intend to do is, once we raise a little bit more money, I would like to be able to fly people out here, meet them, pick them up at the airport, put them at a hotel, teach them about ocean rowing for a day or two, and then get out on the water. And it'd basically be like a 3-day event. And then I would pay for everything. So, or rather, the nonprofit would pay for everything. That's my vision. We're working towards that money. But in the meantime, I can, if anyone's in the area or coming through, like I would still pay for you to have lunch and everything.
Oh, that sounds good right there. That sounds like an invitation right there, just to have lunch with Blake and Peter.
Yeah, we're good guys. We're good guys.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'm always down for lunch.
Needless to say, Ray, I think we all would be if we got on those boats and start rowing. We're all going to be hungry for lunch.
Yeah.
So, again, I really want to thank you guys for coming on and this was a great presentation. You guys presented wonderful idea. I'm just curious, once everyone see this, how many people will be getting in touch with you and making sure they can be a part of this expedition. That sounds great.
I got a question, Blake.
Yeah.
Would you guys be open to some sponsorship from our group, the NBVO?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, any kind of relationship we're open to exploring for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds
we can, we can talk.
Excellent.
Okay. Now Ray's he's gonna be the one to handle that situation with us and get that coordinated if we can do that, and then we'll bring it up in our board how we want to do that. So y'all presented opportunity after opportunity. So any other questions before we give Blake and Peter an opportunity to give up for the evening or end it for the day?
I have a it's not really a question, it's a statement, but I would just like to say thank you guys for helping the transitioning from military to civilian, because you know, as most of us, we've heard that story like millions and millions of times, people getting out and being lost. So just wanted to thank you guys for that. That's an amazing deal.
No, I appreciate that, sir. It's you know, sometimes sometimes you get kind of you lose the, well, at least I do. I lose the forest for the trees, and so even the smallest amount of encouragement like that means more than you know. So I do really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely want to encourage you guys, because what you're doing is major, man. That's great.
And
you guys are doing amazing things.
We're actually Jeremy Blount. I don't know. Do you know him, David? You know Jeremy?
No, I don't.
He's a blind veteran. Really interesting story. Just a servant's heart. He's actually the first blind veteran that I had ever met, and really that's where my heart for blind veterans kind of started. But he and another organization invited us out to a conference in Nashville for blinded individuals, and we'll be there. We have a booth there next week, I think, or in 2 weeks. So we're at the very beginning of the journey, and I think there could be a lot of opportunity for overlap between what I'm doing and your community. So I hope, I'm looking forward to learning more, and I appreciate you guys kind of educating us tonight.
Well, Blake, I appreciate everything you do, and I want you to stay in close proximity contact with us so that we'll make sure we're relaying the information as correctly as possible. But we do want to make sure we don't answer the questions correctly. We know who to direct you to. And yes, I have that contact information. I'd also like to have Peter's contact, since he's your partner. So if one can't fill the gap, the other one will do so. But I appreciate the relationship that we've already made tonight and hook up and the information that you have provided. Hey, crew, let's give them a hand of applause for what they've done for us.
Thank you.
Amazing,
Good job.
amazing job.
Yeah, good job.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, guys. Well, y'all have a blessed night. I'm gonna.
Hold on, somebody's got their hand up.
Oh, I think this is Monica clapping.
That's
Oh, okay.
correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Everyone have a blessed night.
Thank
All
you. Thank you ever so much. Well, guys, you learned something tonight, and there's something available for everyone. So I do want you guys to make sure that you also remember, you go on to our nbvo.org, our webpage. And when this is up, you'll see the recording of it. Share it with someone so that they can understand what's going on. They might want to join us and be a part of this organization, as well as the events that we bring forward. So if you know someone, share this information with them, share this video with them. After it's edited and so forth, we work out the bugs. And again, I apologize tonight because of the interruption that happened. I lost a few people because of that, but I didn't lose everyone. So that was good that everyone was patient enough to stick on and hang in there. Blake, these guys were so amazing. They were here, they hung with us, and they stuck with us, and was very informative. So thank you again, Blake and Peter, for your work that we do. But keep in contact with us and stay close to us, okay?
Yes, sir. Will do.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Guys, I hope that you will be on with us next week. Next week, we do have our NBVOs coming back again, and we will be doing, week after week, we're doing one. Only this month will we be doing a second one on the following week. And we will have, I'll let Ray tell you all about that. And so, because he's our Tech Talk Thursday coordinator. So Ray, go ahead and take it away from there.
All right. Next week, we will be having, I can't remember his name, but he'll be talking about the Cloverbook Pro.
Brad?
No, it's not Brad.
Okay. I'm gonna get the name right. I'm gonna give you the name, Greg Blackman.
Greg Blackman. And he will be, like I said, demonstrating the Cloverbook Pro, and he'll be having answer any questions that you may have about that. So that's all I have.
That is an amazing piece of equipment. I've already have it. There's some more people attaining it. So I would have suggested you be back here next week at the same time. I'll be in my regular location back in Evansville, Indiana. So everything will be just right and smooth. So hang with us, be with us back again. And if there's nothing else, this broadcast is over. So thank you all for coming up tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, guys. Good night.
Good night. Good night, Jane.
Good night. Good night, John Boy.
Good night. I was going to say that.
I'm gonna cut you off before you get any worse, okay?
He beat me to it.
This is the end of the video. Please visit us at nbvo.org.